I need like a button or something, a paper that says hit record before I start filming, because I don't know how many times I forget to hit record. I literally was talking for 5 minutes and I looked and I'm like, wait, I didn't hit record. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa and I'm happy you're here. If you do love my content and you're new here, I hope that you will subscribe and join me here. I love making all kinds of videos and I'm just really happy to be here. For today's video, we are going to go over my alocasias in my collection. I want to show them off a little bit more closely and go over their care a little bit, because I know they can be a bit of a picky plant and quite a few of you struggle with them. So I'll kind of go into more detail about mine and kind of what I do to keep them happy. Alocasias get so much hate. I don't know why. I don't know why they get so much hate. I don't know. I guess I can understand, because it took me a while to kind of figure them out. And honestly, I think alocasias are happiest with age of the plant, honestly, in my experience with them. Alocasias. I love alocasias. You guys, my Monstera leaf is unfurling its new leaf, and it just put out a leaf and it has its first fenestration and it's right in front of me, and I'm dying because let me show you. I know this is an alocasia video, but let me show you my Monstera because it's my #1 plant. You guys will get a sneak peek at my Monstera. Look at that leaf. It is fenestrated. Oh my goodness. This is my little baby. I love this plant. If you didn't know, sometimes plants, their variegation doesn't show up fully until the leaf hardens. Like I can see this whole half has variegation, but it won't really become prominent until they fully harden. So it is variegated and it has one little split leaf there. I'm dying. I am dying. I love this plant so much. We are back. We are back. Alocasias. Alocasias. So I think I have 9 alocasias in my collection. Yes, I have 9 alocasias in my collection. I do want more alocasias eventually because they are a plant, a genus that does really well for me. So I do want to collect more, but I'm happy with the 9 that I have for right now. Up first, we are going to do my Alocasia Frydek. And every time I say Frydek, the captions always pick it up as fried egg. It is not a fried egg, it is fried egg. Look at this leaf, you guys. Oh my goodness. So I did measure this leaf. It is about 1 foot in length. It may not look like it. It's hard to really see the size, but it is about 1 foot in length. And guess what? It has another new leaf unfurling, and it has 4 leaves. So 1, 2, 3. And then this big one here is the latest leaf. So Alocasia Frydek, I feel like it's a pretty easy alocasia to care for. I recommend not getting a baby one of these. Like if you can get one that's the leaf size is a little bit of a decent size. I did have a Frydek before this one that I ended up like selling way before I moved, and the leaves stayed relatively small, and so I did get this one from a local nursery before I moved, and it was a little bit more established, meaning the leaf size was a little bit bigger. All the original leaves that came with this plant have died because this alocasia likes to keep 4 leaves at a time, but it is pushing new growth, so I'm hoping that it will maintain more than 4 leaves, because alocasias are notorious for killing off their oldest leaf when they push out new growth. It happens all the time. It has happened so much and so frequently with my alocasias. But I have found that the more established and mature they are, they will hold on to more leaves. So don't fret if your alocasia yellows leaves and dies. It happens. And guess what, you guys? So I recently repotted him. So I repotted him probably last in like October, November, but I could tell he was pretty root bound. So I repotted him a couple weeks ago and he threw out this huge leaf after I repotted him, and I'm getting a new growth. So when I repotted him, I found a couple corms that I rooted in and I grew in my cabinet behind me, and I have a little baby one now. Look how cute it is. So normally I plant these back into the mother pot, but I am just going to keep this one separately and just see what happens with the little baby. And maybe once he grows a little bit more, I'll eventually stick him back in here. But I've seen Alocasia Frydeks with huge, like tons of leaves that maintain like 10, 12 leaves. So eventually I hope mine does that. Now, based on my experience, this Alocasia, I think I'm gonna do a rating scale from 1 to 10, 10 being the easiest and 1 like being the hardest Alocasia in my collection. So I would give the Frydek probably like an 8 or a 9. It's a pretty easy Alocasia. It's not finicky. It lives in normal humidity in my room. Now I will say Alocasias in general are tropical plants, so you're gonna need humidity. If your environment's like 20–30% humidity, these plants are not going to do well for you. They may grow, but they're honestly not going to thrive. In my experience, I've had Alocasias in really low humidity living in North Carolina. Our winters got really cold, and so I ran humidifiers by the ones that I could and tried to keep them happy, but you don't need like tons of humidity. You don't need like an IKEA cabinet for these. They don't need like a lot of humidity. I only have a few actually in my cabinet, and the ones that I do have in my cabinet, I could honestly just take them out and they'll do fine. So high humidity isn't necessary. I would say try and keep above 50 if you can. If it drops below 50 some days, it's fine. My experience, Alocasias do better in warmer temps. So 70+ degrees and like 50+ humidity is probably ideal for growing Alocasias in my experience. And then I will say, so he's probably like 8 or 9 on the easy scale. And the only thing you have to watch out for the Frydek in general is they are spider mite magnets. Spider mites love Alocasia Frydek. They love Alocasias in general, but I have never, knock on wood, I have never had spider mites on any of my Alocasias ever. So I don't think there is much of a spider mite magnet as some people think. It's probably because I honestly check so frequently for spider mites. They are my worst pest, so I'm always checking. But Alocasia Frydek definitely is a huge spider mite magnet. They get them so much, so I know at some point he's probably going to get them, so I just constantly check. So yeah, that is my Alocasia Frydek. I cannot wait to see that new leaf to see if it's going to be bigger than this last one, so I'm really excited. The next Alocasia is actually my oldest Alocasia, and it is small because it had 3 original big leaves and they all died, you know, killing off their oldest leaf when they push new growth. But I am happy to say that it is maintaining more leaves now. That didn't happen until I moved here because it always kept like 2–3 leaves. It would like have 3 leaves, kill off a leaf, grow a new leaf, kill off a leaf, grow a new leaf. So it had like 2 to 3 leaves at a time. But this is my Regal shield. It is beautiful Alocasia. It has this light green veining, and the underside is just gorgeous. So this is actually the newest leaf it's working on, so it should still be getting bigger. And then this was the second newest leaf it just gave me. And I did plant a corm in here a while ago, this little baby one right here. That is a corm I planted in. It had 2 leaves that grew, and that's the 3rd one that grew. So I do have this corm as like a separate plant in here. So that is one ways I can grow my Alocasias to look fuller, is to plant corms, baby Alocasia plants, back into the pot. An easy scale, I easily give this one like a 9 or 10. This is a really easy Alocasia. It's not finicky at all. I haven't had a single pest with it, and it does well like in my normal room environment. So it's definitely a beautiful Alocasia. It's really easy. These guys can get huge. I don't know if you've ever seen huge Regal shields. I definitely recommend this Alocasia if you want to get started on one because they're beautiful and they're really, really easy to maintain. Next up is an Alocasia that is pretty finicky of an Alocasia. I would probably give this guy less than a 5. I probably wouldn't give him higher than a 5 on an easy scale. I think these ones are a little bit more finicky and do prefer a little bit more humidity. This one actually did get spider mites a long time ago. This is another like Alocasia I've had in my collection for a while, and it only maintained 2 leaves, and it did get spider mites one winter, and I completely had to cut the plant back, and so it took forever for it to regrow out of dormancy, but it finally did. And this is my Alocasia Polly. Those are the newest leaves. And it does have 2 other small ones here. And if you can see in the front, I did add 2 babies in. So yes, I have 4 big leaves and 2 babies, and it doesn't seem to be working on a new leaf, so I might just have these ones for a while. And you guys, the underside of these leaves, look at the back side of an alocasia leaf, Alocasia Polly leaf. Isn't that beautiful? Again, a very, very beautiful alocasia. Does attract spider mites very easily. And yeah, it can be a little bit more finicky. They can yellow quite a bit, but I find these ones do well actually in warmer temps and higher humidity in my experience, because this one lived outside of that cabinet for a while and it just never seemed to be happy until I put him in here, and he's loving the higher temperatures for sure. It's a beautiful alocasia, but probably not one I would get right away if you're new to alocasias. My next alocasia is going to be another one I've had in my collection for a while. It had 2 leaves for the longest time, and I'm happy to report that I have 3 new additional leaves since being here, and this latest leaf is huge compared to the rest of them. And this is my Alocasia Maharani. Look at this newest leaf here. It is beautiful. Now this alocasia has a pretty cool texture. It is very rough feeling, and I love that about this alocasia. This is one of the other bigger leaves, and it has 3 on the other side. So these are the 2 oldest ones, and I thought they were yellowing and they were going to go at some point, but they're still holding on. And then it shot out these 2, and then this is the newest one. You can see how much bigger it is. So yeah, this has been kind of a stubborn alocasia too in my experience. It took a while to hold on and grow to get more leaves. So I would probably give this guy probably like a 6, maybe a little bit higher than the Polly. So definitely one that can get past. I have not had an issue with this one, but just a little bit more stubborn to grow and hold on to more leaves. But if you do like that texture, I want a Melano, I believe. It's another cool like textured alocasia. Then I think you're gonna love this one because it is a pretty cool texture. So yeah, it is loving life. This one lives in my cabinet behind me and it loves it in there. And I'm really excited. So I hope I get another new leaf soon. It does have a bump already. So I do think it's gonna push out another new leaf soon, which is crazy because this one just unfurled not that long ago. So it is very happy right now. Next up, I'm going to show you my dragon scales. They are one of my favorite alocasias because I find them to be really easy and they're not super finicky once they kind of grow and establish themselves. I have 2 silver dragons in my collection and I have 1 dragon scale. So I'm going to show you the dragon scale first. This one was actually supposed to be a variegated dragon scale. I did buy it as that, but it only had 1 variegated leaf and it died. And I feel like it could be somewhat still variegated. It's very subtle. You can't really tell honestly. So I don't know. I'm hoping I get like some more variegation down the road. So we'll see. But this is my regular dragon scale. And I love this alocasia so much. The leaves are so cool. They have this dark green texture to them. Just a stunning alocasia. And I do have a new leaf coming in, which is really exciting. And it has 1 little baby leaf left. So it currently has 4 leaves and it is pushing out a new growth. And yeah, I got this as a really small plant, and all the original leaves, I think it had 3 or 4 original leaves, they have all died. And this is one of the other like leaves that came after that, so that one's still holding on. And yeah, I hope this leaf is even bigger because I feel like my alocasia leaves keep getting bigger like each new leaf. And I give the alocasia dragon scale probably again like an 8 probably on the easy scale. It's not super finicky. It's a beautiful alocasia. I love the texture again, and the underside of the leaves has this cool red veining. Very cool. I love this alocasia so much, and Yeah, I definitely recommend this one if you're just starting out. So for my silver dragons, I'm gonna show you my baby one first. This one I've had for the longest. It's not really a baby anymore, but this one is my proudest alocasia because I grew this guy from a tiny, tiny, tiny plant. I've had this guy probably close to 1.5 years, not quite. And this is one of my silver dragons. Look at how beautiful. I have so many leaves on this one. Like, look at this leaf. Look at how stunning that is. And guess what? I do have another growth point coming in. And I also added 2 baby little leaves from a corm. And there's another one on that side that I added in. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 leaves on this alocasia. I don't know if you can see them all. They're all kind of hiding. And a new growth point, which I don't think this is a flower bloom. I think it's gonna be a leaf. And then 2 baby corms. So yeah, this alocasia is super, super happy. And the underside of this one is very, very beautiful as well. That red veining. So this is probably my easiest alocasia as far as like growing and maintaining the most leaves. It took a while to get established, but once it did, it is growing. It is very, very happy. And so this is like definitely the one that has held on to the most leaves for sure. I love this alocasia. I highly recommend. I give this one like a 9 probably on the easy scale. So yeah, and the texture is amazing. Such a cool alocasia. Love this one so much. And I don't know if you're ready for this silver dragon. So this one was a Acosta Farms plant from the big box store, and I repotted it before I moved and removed a little netting, and it went into a little bit of shock after moving and transitioning, but it just gave me a new leaf. And you guys, the size of this new leaf, can you see this thing? Like compared to my hand, like I feel like I have pretty big hands, and it's like bigger than my hand. This new leaf is insane. I think it's like 8, maybe like 8 inches, I think, or 7 inches when I measured it. And so this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one has 6 leaves, and it does have somewhat of a new growth, and it does have a corm that's like activating in the soil as well. And so this one, some of the older leaves are like crisping up at the ends, and I think that was just like shock from moving and like stress. That one has some too. I have my alocasias in a really, really chunky mix. It's just what I prefer. I really, really love alocasias to have really chunky soil, so when I water, it drains straight through, and I water them probably once a week right now, and they love that. They honestly like to breathe a little bit. I find my alocasias like to not sit in wet soil. I would not do a wick system for these, honestly. Just from my personal preference. If you have alocasias on wick systems and they do great for you, then that's really wonderful. But I find mine, the way that I have them, they like to dry out. Not completely, because if they dry out completely, you're going to stress them, and that can cause some browning. So I usually water mine when mine are like almost dry, and I usually can tell by either sticking my finger in the soil or by filling the pot. Like I just watered all these yesterday, so they're pretty heavy, but usually once a week. I actually find the ones in my cabinet I'm watering almost twice a week because they do dry out a lot faster, but the ones in my ambient room are probably once a week right now. And this one, my other silver dragon, is actually getting more thirsty, and that is another sign that I know the plant is probably needing an upsize again, is when they dry out faster. So they have more roots than soil, and so they drink and take up water faster, so they are probably wanting an upsize. So yeah, that is my silver dragons. I have 2 more left, you guys. Next up is an alocasia that really took a hit after moving. It went into shock. It had like 8 leaves, and then it only like kept 1. It was down to 1 leaf. I had it in my cabinet. It hated it, and so I took it out, and it gave me a new leaf, and it is working on another leaf, which is really exciting. I'm really happy to see this plant come back. And this is my Alocasia Cuprea. Look at this new leaf. This is honestly probably the coolest alocasia in my collection as far as like the leaf and texture. It reminds me of like an alien egg or something. It's so cool. And it has like a beautiful sheen to it. I don't know if you're gonna be able to, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick that up, but it's like sparkly and shimmery. And I don't know, it's a really, really cool texture. I have another little growth coming in right there, which makes me really happy. I love this alocasia so much. This new leaf is just stunning. I love this one. This alocasia is a bit more finicky as far as stress levels. It does not like super hot temperature. And I do have it in a chunky mix and I do let it get mostly dry, but I will not let this thing dry out for too long at all. It's going to stress very easily. So I give this alocasia probably like a 5 on the scale. I've always been like told or heard like this alocasia prefers really high humidity, and that's not the case at all. This alocasia does fine in like 50s in my normal room humidity. He is much happier out of the cabinet. He did not like the high temperatures at all. And in my plant room it is pretty warm, but there is a lot more like ambient like airflow rather than being in like in a tight cabinet where it's like super hot and super bright. I don't think this guy liked the bright lights from the grow lights at all either, because he sits on a shelf a little bit away from a grow light and it likes it a lot better. So definitely one that is really cool. If you love alocasias, I would get one eventually, but yeah, just be warned, they are a bit finicky and stress very easily. So my last alocasia is actually the one that I am rating the hardest in my experience. I'm going to give this one like a 3-4. So I would stay away from this alocasia if you're new to alocasias. I find them to be a little bit more pickier than some others. This is actually my second go at this alocasia. My first one died. It, I guess, somehow got overwatered, got root rot, it went dormant, and it just like never grew back. So I did buy a new baby one of this one, and it does have 4 leaves right now and a new growth. I don't know if it's a flower growth or a leaf, I'm not sure yet. I hope it's a leaf. But this is my black velvet alocasia. That's the newest leaf it gave me since being here. It's a beautiful alocasia. I love the veining and the really, really dark texture. It is beautiful. The underside of this one is beautiful as well. And so it does have 3 more leaves. A couple of them are yellowing. So they might, I think this one's probably going to go. It's a little bit yellowing. And so it does have a new spike, which I hope is a leaf. I hope it's not a flower bloom. But yeah, I don't know. This one has not been the easiest. I actually did find a couple corms it like pushed out on top of the soil, so they are currently rooting in my greenhouse. So I hope I can get some little babies to add in here to fill this one out. But yeah, this one, I'm hoping now that this one has been settled in my room in my new place that it does start holding on to more leaves. I'm hoping and crossing my fingers because I do want this to be a really full alocasia one day. But yeah, just picky with a lot of things. Just overall, like very finicky. I don't know, this one hasn't been easy for me and I treat it the same. I honestly, it's my only alocasia that's not in plastic. So I just now thought about that. It is in terracotta. And most of my plants I have moved out of terracotta. So that reminds me, I think I'm going to repot this guy out of terracotta. I love the look of terracotta, I really do, but I find plants that I have in terracotta don't do well for some reason. And it just dawned on me that this plant is in terracotta. Maybe that's why it hasn't been doing well, because it only has one small drain hole. And again, like I said before, I love for my alocasias to be able to breathe. And I probably should repot this guy and get him out of terracotta. I'm going to do that. So I will do that hopefully soon and keep you guys updated. I cannot believe that just dawned on me that he is in terracotta. I think that's a flower bud too. So yeah, black velvet alocasia, definitely one that's a little bit more finicky. Clearly this one has taken over as my favorite because of this leaf. So that is it. That is my entire collection, and I really hope you enjoyed it. A little bit more about how I care for them. So really chunky soil is a must. I water heavily, let it drain, and let it dry out at least 3/4 of the way before I give more water. I want the soil to be able to breathe, and they really do honestly love that. I fertilize every time I water with my normal fertilizer that I use. I'm currently using liquid dirt, but I am testing some new stuff out. I did put slow release into this one actually recently, so that could be the reason for this new leaf. I don't know. Could be. They do honestly prefer a tropical environment, so really warm, humid. They are going to thrive. My plant room usually is like 50 to 60% humidity most days, and it stays like upper 70s for temperature because of my grow light. So if your alocasias are like any less than 70 degrees, they might not like it as much. They don't like draft, cold, dry air at all. So I do recommend, it's not necessary for really high humidity, but temperature, I would keep them in a warm environment if you can. Definitely check for pests, 100%. Spider mites, every time I water, I'm flipping a leaf over and I'm like this close, like looking at this thing and bringing it to the light. That's how you're gonna spot them. Spider mites like to live on the underside of the leaves, so turn your leaf over and look really, really close, bring it into the light. And they're like little white dots, are like the eggs. And yeah, if you see those on the back of your alocasias, 100% you have spider mites. How I treat for spider mites, I use Azamax, it's a miticide. I mix it up with water, spray it on my plant, let it dry, spray all the leaves front and back, the stems. Like sometimes I spray it on top of the soil, and it takes care of it. First try, it is amazing. I love Azamax. It is a bit more expensive, but honestly, it's the best thing I've ever used for spider mites. Oh, we didn't talk about light. I forget about light. So most of my alocasias are under grow light. I have 3 that live in my IKEA cabinet, and all the others are on that plant shelf behind me. So there's light that hangs from the ceiling, and then there's lights under the cabinet themselves. So they do get supplemental light. These 2 shelves are quite a bit of ways from my big south window here, so they don't get as much natural light, but definitely grow lights do like indirect light, nothing super close to, actually this one does live on the window shelf, this one does, but nothing is too super close to grow lights. Their leaves will burn. Some are more sensitive to bright light, like direct sun, I would not do. So about a foot back from a window, they should do fine in that light. Other than that, I honestly think they're pretty easy care plants. As long as you give them a chunky mix or airflow and don't overwater these guys and provide them with like a warm environment, I think they're honestly going to do really well for you. I think they get so much hate, and they're a beautiful plant species, and I don't see them enough. They just don't get enough love. Honestly, I love them and I want more, so probably going to be another plant purchase if I find an alocasia I don't have already. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned a little bit more about alocasias or their care, and I hope you learned something or maybe spotted an alocasia that you don't have in your collection that you want. So yeah, if there's another collection you want to see of mine, let me know in the comments below and I'll be happy to film that one as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys all very soon. God, I thought I didn't hit record again. Oh my gosh, I would have died.